Hello vinyl community, this is TCAT and this is my second video that I've done. I just wanted to go through some of the things that I found during the Christmas season. Most of it I've ordered online, yes, even the secondhand stuff. Before I got into that though, I wanted to thank everybody for their subscriptions and for welcoming me into the vinyl community. I'm going to try to keep the videos much shorter than the last one. Speaking of the last video, for some reason when I was uploading the video, the last part of it got cut off. So the last part of the vinyl tag 2022, the last two questions for some reason got cut off of that video. So I just wanted to show those records really quick. Item number 21 on the vinyl tag list of questions was to show a colored vinyl, and I wanted to show this one by one of my favorite bands, and seems to be a lot of people's favorite band, Pink Floyd. This is pretty much an unofficial release, but it's a very well done release. It's mostly taken from 1967. They're different shows that were on the BBC. That's the name of the album, BBC 1967. This is the way the record came. No jacket, just a plastic cover. And this strip here that shows what songs are on it and the dates they were recorded. Notice the small label in the middle is kind of cool. 45 RPM mono, and the sound is surprisingly quite amazing for an unofficial recording. Very nice, and I really enjoy this record a lot. Surprised at how good it sounds. And then the last question, the last item was show something from 1982, 40 years ago. The album I picked to show for that is one that I've loved for many, many years. One that's not very popular. I've never seen it shown anywhere in the VC or anybody that I've ever talked about this band has never even heard of them. I found this record one time before and it was in terrible shape, and that's the one I've kept over all these years. Well, I finally found a really good copy of it. Eye to Eye is the name of the band. Again, it's not one that a lot of people have heard of. It does have the promo gold stamp, though it does not have promo labels. It's 8 songs. They're the Porcaro brothers from Toto are in this band. Yet the sound of the music is more like Steely Dan with a female lead singer. Great stuff. I mean, it's very well written, both vocally and instrumentally. And it's one that I always really enjoy to listen to. Eye to Eye. They had one other album that they released after this that actually had Donald Fagen playing keyboards on one of the songs. So there's that. Now we're going to move on to, and I'm going to go through these records fairly quickly. Most of them are ones that you've probably seen a lot of times, but they're ones that I'm trying to fill in holes in my record collection. A big fan of Eric Clapton, and I was able to find the Backless album in really good condition. With the gatefold. And I know there's been a lot of controversy over Eric Clapton lately, especially with some lawsuit that for somebody accidentally purchasing one of his bootleg albums. Turned out that there's not much to that story, actually, other than it was his legal team that sued this woman. She was apparently, they were apparently awarded the money for her purchasing this album, and it turns out that Eric Clapton heard about it and ended up paying for all the legal fees and everything, and so everything's good. But you know what? There's stories about a lot of artists out there, that you question their choices and things like that, but that doesn't mean you can't enjoy their music. And I still really enjoy Eric Clapton, and was also able to find another one that I had missing from my collection, Behind the Sun. This one has been a long time favorite of mine, though you don't hear much about it. I really enjoy this record. One of my favorites, like I said, out of his discography on Duck Records. Another one that I found, there's, I don't know if any of you remember, but there used to be, you used to be able to get from Warner Brothers these loss leaders, what are called Warner Brothers loss leaders. And their inner sleeves used to look like this for a lot of Warner Brothers releases. There was an order blank at the top, Warner Brothers loss leaders, and you could send for a lot of different albums in this series that had various artists on it, different artists that Warner Brothers was trying to push at the time, and they were $2 a piece. The records themselves were really good, had a lot of great songs on them. Some of the things you would be familiar with, other things you wouldn't be. And it's a good way to discover some of the old bands that never really got a lot of attention back in the day, and even now. So I've always wished that I could send for these. I remember when I was young and didn't have a lot of money, even at $2 a piece, and my parents probably wouldn't have approved very much of them. And so it's always been kind of a fantasy to own these. Well, I've pretty much got most of them, but there's still about 7 or 8 that I'm missing. I was able to find 2 more to add to that collection, and one of these days I'm going to do a video on the ones that are in this Lost Leaders series and talk a little bit more about that. This is one of them. It's a double album. All singing, all talking, all rocking. Each one of these always has a booklet in the middle or something similar to this printed in the gatefold, but it talks about the songs, the artists, their albums, and kind of interesting. They're always a great collection too, and most of them come on whatever label Warner Brothers was using at the time. This particular one has songs from Maria Moldauer, Strider, Bonnie Raitt, the Allman Brothers. Sometimes you get rare cuts. Robin Trower, Jethro Tull, Uriah Heep, America, quite a variety of songs too. And sometimes these albums would follow some kind of a theme. Here's another one I found. This one is called Appetizers. Again, it's another one of the Warner Brothers Lost Leaders albums. And again, there's the booklet in the middle that tell about the bands that are on it. This one has songs by T-Rex, Deep Purple, Martin Mull, Flo and Eddie from the early Mothers of Invention days. the Beach Boys, Foghat, Faces, Alice Cooper, Little Feat, they're all in here. Again, sometimes they were deep tracks, other times they were songs that became hits. So, and these used to be $2, so that's a pretty good deal. Not anymore. Sometimes they're $2, other times you see them for $30, $40, depending on how sought after they are. But we'll go into that a little more when I do that video. The next one is Joni Mitchell. This one was one of her 80s releases. Chalk Mark in a Rainstorm. This one has kind of an 80s vibe to it, but not overly terrible as far as that goes. There's no real known songs on it yet. However, it's quite a good album. It's the first time I've heard this particular album from Joni Mitchell, and was impressed with how it sounded. A little bit different from her usual sound, but still you can tell it's her. Then I also found, not a real big James Taylor fan, but every once in a while I'll pick something up. There's this one here. In the Pocket is the name of this album. And it has the song Shower the People on it, which is probably the biggest hit off this particular album. It's one of probably his later albums, I think done in the 80s. Personally, I like his earlier albums like this one, Walking Man. This one I think is a better album out of the two. And again, it's on the Palm Tree Burbank Warner Brothers label. Moving along, here's an album that I've always liked a lot, that I've had a hard time finding in good condition lately. This one is really in great condition. It's one I got off of a site online that sell used records, saying every time I get them, they're exactly as they describe. Very clean, very few scratches, if any at all, on a lot of their used stuff. But this one turned out to be in really good condition. Uriah Heep, The Magician's Birthday, one of my favorites by Uriah Heep. And it's on the older Mercury label. This one's got the 10-minute song, Magician's Birthday, very, very progressive song. The other songs on it are great. Some of them are pretty typical for that time that the album was put out. Most of them are kind of mellow, so they're not. I don't feel like it's as heavy as what some of the other albums that they put out are, but the songs on it are still great, and their original lead singer was still with them at the time. Next we have Santana, Inner Secrets, one of his albums he put out in the early 80s. It's on the Columbia label. Really before they went too commercial, they were kind of on the verge of being moving from the 70s sound to the 80s sound. I really have enjoyed this album here. I've had it when I was younger and grew up with it, so that's probably why I like it so much. And I also found Caravanserai, another Santana album. This one is more fusion oriented. Not quite as popular as some of their other early albums, but this was actually their fourth album. Clive Davis, who produced a lot of their albums back then, told them that this particular album would end up killing their career. still was a big seller, though it sounds nothing like what they had sounded like before. Like I said, it's a lot more experimental and a lot more fusion to it, a lot more instrumental. I showed this on my last one, an album that I hadn't heard. That's this Robin Trower, Jack Bruce, and Bill Lorden, BLT. This was released in the early 80s, around 1982, I think. I have listened to it since then. It's pretty good. It's fairly typical Robin Trower sound. Again, there's the Chrysalis label. Most of the songs stay under the 5-minute mark, so there's nothing really epic on there like the song Two Rolling Stoned or Bridge of Sighs or anything like that from Robin Trower's other solo albums. This one has the collaboration between the 3 musicians, and it's decent. It's very blues-oriented rock. Fairly good variety on it, but nothing outstanding either. It's pretty good though. This next one is the Chicago's second album. It's a double album. Those familiar with Chicago know this is the first album they put out that wasn't under the name Chicago Transit Authority. A few of the early Chicago albums I really love, and this is one of them. This was actually probably one of my first albums that I became quite passionately aware of back in the early 70s. Anyway, 25 or 6 to 4 is on this. Make Me Smile, Split Up in a Suite is on here. And it's on the Columbia 2i label. Anyway, one of my favorite Chicago albums. I love this one. I love the Chicago Transit Authority album. And Chicago 7 is another great one. And Chicago 8 is pretty decent too, especially for the Jimi Hendrix tribute they put on there. Other than that, kind of give and take as far as the consistency of Chicago's albums. Next is one that I've never really ever owned, but I always had on my radar, Iron Butterfly, In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida. This seems to be an original pressing in excellent shape. Usually when you see these, they're a mess, so I've usually left them alone, but this one here is pretty clean, no scratches. And the Atco label, pretty nice. Also found a copy to fill my Police collection, Zenyatta Mondata, my favorite Police album. This is the one that I first heard by the Police. My friend was playing it when it first came out in his cassette player, and I just loved it. Anyway, the Police, another one in great shape. This was the first Kinks album I ever owned, low budget, and I really loved it back then. Found a good clean copy of it and picked that up. Here's a record by a band that I've heard around the VC quite often, though I've never seen this particular album shown. I'm sure somebody has it out there. I have no idea how it sounds because I haven't listened to it yet, but it's Babe Ruth. I think it's like their 3rd or 4th album. I'd be very interested in hearing it. I don't know if it sounds anything like some of their more acclaimed albums that you see around the BC. It's on the Harvest label. And I picked it up for $2. I thought, okay, well, we'll give it a try. See how this one is. And then I also found, I'm been looking around a lot for some of the older Fleetwood Mac albums with Peter Green, especially their live stuff. And this one, for a pretty good price. Not exactly sure how good it sounds, but it's got a really good set list. All of side 3 is a 24-minute jam of Rattlesnake Shake, and side 4 has Green Manalishi, which was done as a cover by Judas Priest on their Hellbent for Leather album. This particular version of it, since Fleetwood Mac actually was the band that originally recorded this song, I believe, this particular version is 15 minutes long, so it should be interesting. There's some information in there about the album, where they say that this was meant to be an album released by the band, but then Peter Green left the band and they decided not to release it. So I don't know what kind of quality this is going to have. It's on the Shanghai label. And interested in giving that one a listen. Here's a new artist. My wife really loves this artist. I do too. I think she's just an amazing songwriter. And well, it's one I don't see around here on the VC very often. Brandi Carlisle. This is her latest album, In These Silent Days. I've heard this. It's absolutely wonderful, just like all of her other albums. Gatefold. Picture of her playing the guitar. And there's the label. Amazing songwriter. One that I highly respect. I've been replenishing my Pink Floyd albums, trying to get all of the remastered versions of them. I found Atom Heart Mother, still sealed, fairly decent price on it. Don't worry, I kept the shrink with the hype label. It's inside the jacket, but I'm not going to pull that out right now, but there's the label. Not much else to say about that. Everybody pretty much knows about Pink Floyd. The new Robert Plant, Alison Krauss album. Just simply love these guys together, and was very excited to hear when they decided to put out another album. A couple of the songs on here are quite good. Going Where the Lonely Go is mostly Alison Krauss, and she's a favorite singer of mine, and so is Robert Plant. But that particular song is just absolutely beautiful, almost worth the price of the entire album. But it's all really good. Somebody Was Watching Over Me is another great song. Again, highly recommended. I also picked up, since I'm a big Neil Young fan, I had to have the new album Barn, which a lot of you have been getting. Happy to have that one and add it to my Neil Young collection. So that's it for this one. At least I kept it down to about 25 minutes. That's not too bad. I'm also expecting another package to be coming by fairly soon. We'll have about another 4 albums, plus I've got others that I can show. And also want to make some theme-oriented videos. I promised you that I'd do something about Steven Wilson, and also would like to do a themed video about the Warner Brothers Lost Leaders and why that's so important to me to have that entire set. But anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed what you've seen here, and if you'd like to know when I make other videos, just hit the subscribe button, and you'll be one of the first ones to know. All right. Thank you very much, and thank you for welcoming me to the community and for the many great subscribers that have already joined in. Even though my YouTube says I only have 1 subscriber, that's not true. I don't know what the deal with that is. But anyway, thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you again.